10,000. It wasn't that long ago I was squirming in my seat because I was so excited to reach 1,000 and start making a little ad revenue. More and more of you have hopped on board, and I hope you're enjoying the ride. I do a lot of things and I'm good at a lot of things, but at the core of my life, it's clear that I was born to make people laugh. Let's see if I can do that now. In 1983, I saw a made-for-TV movie about a ballistic plane, sort of like the Spindrift in Land of the Giants, and I'm delighted to say that it's kicking off my new occasional feature, Dumb Movies I Like Anyway. This is Starflight, the Plane That Couldn't Land, starring Lee Majors and Hal Linden.
This is Starflight Control. We have 24 hours to lift off. And counting.
It's directed by Jerry Jameson, who also directed Airport 77 and Raise the Titanic. He knows how to do an action movie. The effects people are all seasoned veterans, so this should be good. Okay, we've met the plane. How about the people who go into it?
Everything checks out, Bodish. A perfect ride. You're at 54,000. Ready? Fire the rockets. Okay. Level off. I've still got 4 seconds. No way. Level off. You're overshooting. Too much thrust. I can't reduce the angle of climb. Damn, Bodish, we've got a mismatch. Exactly the same thing happened to Cody.
The man in the simulator is Josh Gilliam. He designed and built the plane. Bodish is his right hand. They're less than 24 hours from launch, and these guys are still finding problems. Are you sure you want to do this?
You ought to stop being a pilot and stick to plane design? Yeah. I don't know. It's not right. The rockets... Yeah, the rockets have been more than right. On 34 test flights. If we could just get them under ground computer control, like... Josh, you know how long that would take? A week! Less if we kick it hard. Hey, listen, genius. This thing flies tomorrow. Maybe it shouldn't.
I wonder what the passengers would say if they could hear this conversation.
Nancy.
You remembered. I figured if I didn't come and get you, you'd never come home.
I was...
Just leaving. Good night, Elliot.
Just leaving. Good night, Elliot. Good night, Nancy. Good night, Josh. We were testing the rockets again. I don't know.
I hope I don't need to point out that Nancy is Josh's wife. When they're out of earshot, Bodish makes a call to someone and tells them, Josh is talking postponement again.
What's all this about Josh? You been talking to him again?
No, Dad. I just know that Josh feels that we should postpone. Maybe we should listen to him.
He designed the plane. If he says it's not ready for prime time, that's a pretty decent indicator that it's not.
Josh Gilliam would have us improve Starflight to the point where it's the most improved aircraft that never got off the ground. You know what I had to promise Washington to get some tax breaks and financing?
I know, Dad.
Not to mention the Thornwell $20 million that's riding on the flight tonight.
I just don't see the harm in a few weeks' delay.
Confound it, boy, you're talking about trivial things like safety. Don't you understand? This is about money.
I don't care too much for money. Money can buy you love.
And that's why you boys never went anywhere. Ray Milland is a screen acting icon. He never intended to be an actor. He was an accomplished equestrian and excelled at several other sports. A sudden financial downturn forced him to try something else, and he found himself on a little stage learning to act. A producer discovered him in 1934, and he knew he had found his home. He kept working right up to his death from cancer in 1986. Today, he's playing the overbearing rich clod who pushes his underlings around and dominates them like a Roman emperor. Nowhere is that more apparent than in his relationship with his son. I have to pity Martin growing up under that thumb. Think about what was just said. Martin said, maybe we need to wait until we're sure it's safe. His dad, who goes by QT, told him to grow up. Money is more important than people. He should know that by now.
There is no such thing as an ungodly hour today, Felix. Today's the big day. I just wanted to see if you needed any more information before you went on the air.
Such as, my dear?
Such as, the passenger list is made up of people from all across the country, demographically chosen. Shall I spell that for you?
Well, it's really marvelous. Half a Noah's Ark with one of everything, speeding through the air, 23 miles above the Earth at 4,000 miles an hour.
I wonder what Noah would think.
Meet Erica. She'll be on the flight while Felix stays below and reports on it. She and Felix flirt a lot, but it's harmless fun as far as she's concerned. The girl in the room behind her is her daughter.
Good morning, sunshine. Looks lovely.
Everything's cold.
I'm sorry, but I had to make that call. It was very important.
So much more important than taking 2 minutes to eat the food your daughter prepared for you. Erica is in the process of losing her daughter because she's not paying attention.
You don't talk to Daddy like that.
Lori, your daddy and I are divorced. And it breaks my heart that it still upsets you. But we love you very much.
Oh, by the way, they're both going on the plane.
Be having fun? We're going to Australia. A couple of kangaroos, huh? That's my girl.
Not for long if you think a little joke is going to smooth all that over.
Better pack.
Why? We're not going till 7 o'clock tonight.
Wouldn't want you to be late and I'd mess up the whole job.
Fasten your seatbelts, folks. It's gonna be a bumpy ride.
Told you. Who's our pilot for this gig?
Well, how is it? Janet, whatever happened to your thing for omelets?
Whatever happened to cotton candy? Whatever happened to us?
In many ways, this movie is a critique of the so-called me generation that arose in the 80s. When the yuppies appeared, suddenly money, status, and the acquisition of stuff became the driving forces of American life. We all know that's wrong. The proper driving forces of life are laughter, music, and kitties.
Is it so bad? Nice house, out of the smog.
And a husband who spends all of his time in the sky, even when he's here. What do you think about when you're up there, Cody?
Oh, I don't know. Wars I've been in, presidents I've flown, people I love.
Do I fit in that last category, Cody?
Not today, Janet, please.
Heath has a physical defect. His mouth is able to form words like, "not today, Janet," but he can't seem to twist it into the shape that lets him say yes. It's the big relationship bugaboo that dominated the 80s. He won't share his feelings. I think Tom Lehrer said it best around 1964. People in these dramas spend hours bemoaning the fact that they can't communicate. If a person can't communicate, the very least they can do is to shut up. Let's head to Santa Monica, where Freddie Barrett is about to make history, to say nothing of a ton of money.
What? Yeah, it's me, Freddie. Surprise, huh? Guess what? I'm gonna be in Sydney for the launch. That's right, old chum. I'm on Starflight.
We'll be in Australia a good 2 hours before you launch our satellite out there.
He owns this satellite, and he already has bidders lining up to buy use of it. He intends to be the first private commercial space operation. And now we know where a certain South African immigrant got the idea. You know he didn't think of it.
Elliot, is there anything to Josh's fuss about postponement? No, it's too remote. You better show me.
The question is, how remote? Is it remote like winning the lottery, or is it remote like living in Wyoming?
See, before the booster rockets are cut off, that thing is moving at better than half a mile a second, straight out towards space. And what Josh is worried about is the possibility of a slip that could lift Starflight right out of the atmosphere. You and I know that can't happen.
Except it did happen to both Cody and Josh in the simulator. Tell him that part.
Yeah, but supposing it does, what does that do in terms of cabin pressure?
Well, you'd have a pressurized craft pushing against the nothingness of a zero atmosphere. So if there's any structural flaw...
Oh, well, that's only half the plane. His dad considers that acceptable.
Starflight is operated through a complicated network of computer banks. It took 2 years to program the software for these computers.
Your father would like you on his far, right?
So wants you.
Josh, come on, you almost missed your own flight.
Erica is handling the press coverage. They've curtained off a whole section of the plane for the news people. The correspondents have been chosen from an international pool of candidates.
I understand you're having a few, well, we won't call them troubles, but some qualms.
Well,
Josh, you give me one shred of evidence that this magnificent plane of yours is not ready to take off, and I'll cancel the flight.
Okay, his latest trip in the simulator. How's that? But in the hectic pace of the moment, he can't think of that much to say.
Smile, Josh.
would prefer it if the rockets were under ground control, yes.
But she is ready for a maiden flight, isn't she?
Well,
Now will the two Mr. Thornwells come with me?
Wait, this thing hasn't actually flown before? Not even a test flight to be sure the rockets will fire at all? So this is the first test flight, and they're doing it with a full load of civilian passengers.
What?
Do the passengers know this? I doubt it. When I get on a plane of any kind, I more or less assume it's been put through its paces and been tested to be sure it goes up and down in proper fashion. If I'm understanding these guys, this plane has never actually flown before. Or at best, it's never flown hypersonic using the rockets. If I board a plane and find out that everything on it has been tested except the engines, I'm getting off and going home.
Well, the rumors I've been hearing are true. My lips are sealed.
And now for the worst kept secret in town, our pilot Cody and Erica are having a thing. Janet's presence is embarrassing the bejeebers out of everybody.
She's beautiful. And handsome.
Yes, she is.
I really don't care much for beautiful women. She looks nice, though. Is she? I thought so.
Just keep it at home, gentlemen. If home isn't doing it for you, don't go on the prowl. Ask why. You took that step with her, or him as the case may be, for a reason. Unless there was a shotgun involved, that reason was love. If you don't think it's there anymore, ask yourself where it went and go find it. If you can't find it, don't cheat. Be honest. Break up. Set him or her free to pursue a different life. Don't skulk around like a criminal having to hide what you do. I've heard guys say, but I like the stability of having a wife too. Then make up your mind. Everything in life is a trade-off. If you're determined to spread it around, be honest with the person you're breaking your promise to. Because while it may come as a shock to some guys, it's not all about you. That other person is just as important as you are. Maybe more, since you're proving that you can't be trusted and your promise means jack. If you really want that stability and you care about that person, find a way to make it work again. You married that person because you wanted to spend the rest of your life with them. And you know what we say about marriage.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today.
No, that is not what I had in mind.
Wasn't that Mrs. Briggs we saw with Captain Briggs?
So that's what's bugging you, huh?
Yeah, was it?
Yes, it was Mrs. Briggs. And yes, I like Cody. And no, You don't have any right to stand in judgment of me.
She has every right. Your fooling around broke up her household and took her dad away from her. Explain how she's not qualified to judge you for that. It's almost time to take off. We watched some boxes of gold bullion being loaded on board, and the passengers are taking their seats.
My daughter, Lori. Mrs. Harvey.
Hello. Hello.
Honey, if you get cold, the purple shawl is in that bag, okay? Bye.
You must be very proud of your mother.
Think of anything else to say, lady. By Lori's reaction, I think Mrs. Harvey knows she stepped in something. It's 16 minutes until launch, and it'll stay 16 minutes for the next hour.
2 passengers coming on board, Australian ambassador and his wife.
Wait a minute, didn't I read that he just died yesterday?
Affirmative. We're shipping him back home. Special request from the White House, no less.
Well, there's nothing for it. Cody makes the announcement, and the flight attendants prepare the drink cart. A lot of people are going to need it, such as Freddie.
Bud? It's Freddie. Well, we got about an hour delay here.
Weather's closing in anyway, mate, so no sweat about your delay. Couldn't get the rocket off today anyway. Maybe not for another week.
A week? Come on, we'll lose everything if... What's the weather like now?
Well, it's still pretty good, but our launch permit is 3 hours from now, after Starflight's down. That's straight from NASA, Freddie, and the Aussies have honored the request.
And NASA is not someone around with whom one should screw. But this is different. This is about...
I told you that we got money out there, but we don't collect anything unless we can prove that we can get this thing off the ground. On time.
Well, you can talk them around, Freddie boy. You're good at that.
That's bowling. I want the rocket in the air. Now.
That's a very bad idea. Not only does NASA handle America's space program, they also serve as air traffic controllers, coordinating the various public and private enterprises to make sure we don't crash into each other up there. But this is about money, the great God and Savior of America in the 80s.
But what about the permission?
I'll take care of that. You just get the rocket off.
Well, I'll see what I can do.
It's not good enough. Do it, Bud. Launch it. Now.
All right, mate.
And what will the repercussions of that be? I think we're all rooting for it to be a dud, and Freddie has to go get a job.
Hi. Make some more coffee.
Huh.
You still plan on going back when we land?
Lori's got school.
That's right, Cody. There are a lot more people involved in this than just you and your wiener.
It's pretty tough, isn't it? I mean, we're not even a triangle. What are we? We're quadrangle?
How do you spell awkward?
She's a lot taller than I thought.
She thought you were very beautiful.
It's very kind of. Excuse me.
When Janet was just a theoretical construct, she was fine. When she slapped Erica across the face with her existence, suddenly not so fine. Is all this guilt really worth what you two are doing? I doubt it. In Australia, Bud has dutifully launched Freddie's rocket. In Los Angeles, the ambassador and his wife are on board and they're cleared for takeoff. Unlike your basic ballistic missile, she uses conventional engines and a runway to get into the air, and then at a certain altitude they kick in the rockets.
Congratulations, Josh.
Positive rate of climb established.
Good job.
The model work in this movie is very good. It'll get even better as we go along.
Chris, wait up. There's been a Delta launch from Australia. Angle of ascent 45 degrees.
Any problems?
We're still tracking, but it could come close to the HST's flight plan.
In other words, Freddy's unauthorized launch and Starflight are pretty much headed straight for each other. But as so often happens, it gets worse.
We're tracking a Delta launch that didn't clear with us. She's moving in an arc that's characteristic of a second stage malfunction.
Freddy made them bypass all the pre-launch checks. One of them might have caught that before the rocket was in the air.
Now, if she malfunctions, there's no telling what course she'll take.
Where's the feed? From NASA. Some kook's got a Delta rocket moving toward us.
Yeah, that kook is on Starflight, and he has no idea what he just did.
Starflight to ground.
Go ahead, Cody.
We'd like permission to let NASA take us through this.
That's affirmative, Cody.
Okay, NASA, we're all yours.
We're watching you like a hawk, Starflight.
I don't care how much money you have or how smart you think you are, no private enterprise is going to have the resources that NASA has. One simple reason for that is NASA has been at this longer than anybody else, and they know what the quirks are and how to deal with them because they have experience. Money-grubbing, self-absorbed dudes like Freddy think they can match that. Newsflash, they can't. If you want to do stuff to make money in space, go for it. But suggest yourself to NASA if you know what's good for you and everybody else. There's only one space cowboy, and his name is Steve Miller, not Freddie Barrett.
There's got to be something you can do.
There's not a bloody thing I can do. The automatic sequence control didn't complete. The third stage rockets aren't firing, mate.
But you got to give it every chance. Don't let them blow it. Don't, please.
Safety ground command is turning purple.
But don't let them destruct it.
Bud is explaining that the rocket isn't going to make it to orbit. It can't without that third stage. Right now, it's a driverless car moving at breakneck speeds and going nobody knows where.
Look, mate, we don't have a bloody third stage.
But you destruct it, I'm going to lose everything. Everything.
Don't have any choice, Freddy.
Gotta stop. Somehow stop it.
So lose everything and start over. That's better than your rocket causing a major disaster someplace when it comes down. But Freddy cares about Freddy. Thing is, he still has no idea what he has wrought.
She's gone.
Yeah, well, their timing stinks. Starflight. Missile's been destroyed.
What does that mean for us?
1 million pieces of space junk headed towards you at 8,000 miles an hour.
That is what Freddy has wrought. Just a few pieces of his rocket hitting the plane could kill everybody.
How close?
Your speed, everything's close.
Out of my element, Chris. What's my move?
We can't pin the debris. Not sure you can manage lateral traffic avoidance.
Give me my move, Chris.
Starflight, pull up and climb at your best rate.
What he said was they don't have the maneuverability to go around it, so the only option is to go over it.
Stand by to level off and return to 120,000.
Standing by.
Okay, Starflight, level off.
Stand by, level off. Kill rockets.
Whatever that piece of junk hit, it did it just right. The rockets won't shut off. The plane isn't designed for this, and nobody knows what is going to happen, but those rockets are taking them beyond the atmosphere and into orbit, whether they want to or not.
Kill the burn, Cody. Kill the burn.
I would if I could, but I can't, so I won't.
The average rocket burn is supposed to last maybe 20 seconds. They have 2.5 minutes of rocket fuel, and there's nothing they can do but hold on and wait for the rockets to burn it all. Once that's done, the Starflight has passed the 450,000-foot threshold. They're in space, orbiting the Earth. Things are starting to float around the cabin and the whole bit. The question is one of air and hull integrity.
There are no injuries. 59 of us are alive and well, waiting for your instructions. Where the hell did everybody go?
Cody, this is Bodish. You realize that that plane was not designed to go into orbit. So we don't have that information in the computer here. We're going to need some think time.
Well, think good, because while everything is holding together up there and the people are helping to get things fastened down in the low gravity, the big question is, how do we get down? The plane doesn't have anything resembling a heat shield, so re-entry would be suicide. Both their own controllers and the folks at NASA are offering a lot of generic gobbledygook, but nothing useful. All Cody can do is keep reassuring the passengers that they're in no immediate danger, they have lots of air, and NASA is working feverishly on a way to get them down. I want to know if anybody is ever going to find out that Freddy was the one who caused this. I hope so. He was whining that he lost everything when they blew up the rocket, so he could use some free room and board in prison.
This is for the news bay. In order to save battery power, we are suspending live transmission facilities to Earth.
Well, they pulled the plug, but that doesn't stop us using our battery pack. Why don't you guys set up over in there?
I assume that means they're taping, not broadcasting live.
Got speed, boss.
This is Felix Duncan aboard Starflight 1. In orbit, in a weightless environment, aboard a ship that was not designed for spaceflight. We are circling the Earth once every 90 minutes. For all intents and purposes, this is an aircraft that has already crashed.
And if he is taping, he reminds me of Stanley Tucci's character at the end of The Core, when he was philosophizing into his tape recorder and then suddenly stared at it and said, "What am I doing?" What are the chances that our man's tape would survive for someone to watch? In order to get the plane to do much of anything, they need to refuel the rockets. To do that, they'll send Columbia, America's first and at that time only space shuttle, with fuel and the equipment to pump it into Starflight. Today, it's hard for some people to understand how revolutionary, not to say unlikely, Columbia was. The world's first reusable spacecraft took ages to develop, test, and ultimately send into space. Its first launch was delayed by computer glitches several times. In fact, I remember Frank Reynolds of ABC News concluding the day's report with an explanation for that day's delay. He said, and I believe I'm quoting, "5 little computers all in a row. One wouldn't talk, so Columbia's still here below." The biggest issue is heat protection. Rather than a single solid shield the way they had done with the old space capsules, Columbia used individual tiles to completely cover the affected area. The problem? Several of them kept falling off. The quest for an adhesive that would keep them in place could be a video of its own. When she finally made it to space, inspection discovered that several tiles had fallen off during launch, which made it questionable whether the craft could actually survive re-entry now. It did. That's good, because Starflight really needs help, and Columbia is about the only way to get it to them. While they're waiting, may as well check the cargo bays and make sure everything is nailed down. That is a hole with accompanying leak. Gold bars are floating all over the place, but suction from air escaping through that hole has them gathering up there. That's what'll tell him it's an actual leak and not just a scorch mark of some kind. They can isolate that room, but it means losing about 5 hours of air. May as well, they're losing it anyway, and there's not a thing they can do about it. Close the room off so no more of the rest of their air goes in there and out into space. Columbia has arrived. A couple of astronauts are doing an EVA to get the fuel line over to Starflight.
Starflight, when we're ready to feed, you release the number 3 fuel hatch.
We copy.
I want to take a moment and talk about the special effects. These scenes genuinely look like they're happening in the weightless environment of space. The way things move, the way the astronaut has to maneuver herself, the pitch black behind her, it's as authentic as it gets. I will be having some issues with some aspects of the story later on, but these effects are amazing. And since it's 1983, no CGI. It's all practical effects. Believable practical effects. Well done doesn't begin to cover my praise for them. Fueling goes off without a hitch. While our astronaut is out there, Cody would like her to examine the damage they sustained. I know the noises are for our benefit, but I think everybody over the age of 6 who saw this knows there's no audible sound in space.
Captain Briggs, you were right. Your external rocket system's control line is split.
How long to make the splices?
Sir, this is a maze I'm looking at. I'll consult with Captain Herrera. For now, I'd cut the power feed to this line, Captain Briggs.
We copy.
Our rockets are fueled, we've got an idea about the damage, everything is go. Now, what do we do with the rockets? On the ground, they're trying to figure that out. Bodish is thinking if they can come in at an angle that reduces the amount of surface that's hitting the atmosphere, they could bring the plane down. But nobody's sure what that angle might be, and there's only one person who could come up with it, the man who designed the plane, Josh. They need to find a way to get him to Columbia so he can come down and help them.
It seems ironic you two planning a way to bring Josh home, and if you would just listen to him in the first place.
Funny, none of the money guys has an answer for that. When you put profit over people, this is what you get. This was 1983, 3 years after one of the most consequential elections in American history. Thanks to Ronald Reagan's influence, financial prosperity became everybody's goal and money became God. The yuppie generation arose, regulations were cut and corporate greed ran rampant, environmental concerns were tabled in favor of more money for the stockholders. Basically, all the massive corruption, greed, and grift that we see happening today can be traced to the time when this story is occurring. Guys like this bunch led the way. Profits are all, everything else is secondary. And now, all those innocent people on the plane are reaping what these guys sowed. Except for Freddie, their only crime was trusting these clowns. Columbia says they can jury-rig their airlock to get Josh on board through one of the cargo compartments. They'll connect something and send a pair of spacesuits over for Josh and someone to help him.
I guess we better make sure it works before we risk Josh Gilliam. I'm the only one here who wrote on his school application that he wanted to be an astronaut.
Oh, listen, Pete.
Case closed. Captain, you better speak to Josh.
Pete will go into this thing first to make sure it's safe. He's the only one who likes the idea, but he's determined. That's as good as they can get it. Pete is ready to test it.
I'm in the airlock, about to suit up.
So far, so good, but what's the end game with Pete? Does he stay on the shuttle and return to Earth? Do they bring him back when they have proof of concept and they're ready to get Josh? What happens to him?
Make sure you shut the airlock hatch, Pete.
They told him to put the helmet on too. I don't know why he hasn't yet. He can feel the airlock pulling loose from the plane, so it seems like a good idea just in case. But closing the hatch should have the same effect.
Pete, is your hatch shut?
No, it isn't. And instead of pushing the button over and over, he'd do well to go over there and put his shoulder to it and get it unstuck. He won't do that or answer the question. Maybe I shouldn't have asked what happens to Pete. Josh is livid.
No more guinea pigs.
There's got to be another way to get you off.
Yeah. All right, but this time it's just me. No more guinea pigs.
As it turns out, they do have an airtight way to get Josh off the plane and over to Columbia. It won't be very pleasant.
Look, here's how maybe it can go down, okay? The luggage compartment is sealed off from the rest of the ship. We load Josh into the casket. Then the two astronauts open the compartment and pull Josh to Columbia.
Wouldn't he need oxygen?
You notice Janet is there. Even though her husband is cheating and their marriage is on the rocks, she can't stay away. Shared history can't be undone. It has to mean something.
Well, the whole operation will take 4 to 5 minutes. There's enough oxygen in there to sustain him.
I suppose that thing isn't really airtight. At best, all Josh would have would be a few cubic feet of air and what's left in his own lungs.
Martin's got a point. Even a hairline fracture or a pinhole.
Look, I think Josh knows the risks better than we do.
It's his decision because he's up there and you're not, so you can't stop him. So there. There is one person who could.
It's not right. Oh, please. It's not right.
There's no other way.
Oh.
But she won't. She understands that her husband's body has to come second to all the living people at risk here. Elsewhere on Starflight, they have gold bars slipping through a hole and into space.
And there's a hole the size of my fist. I didn't have a choice, Cody. I sealed off the entire cargo hold.
You did right. Depressurize the luggage bay.
If the system keeps pumping air into a hole that leaks, soon there's no more air to pump. He says they're losing the air in the cargo hold too, because it has to be depressurized so the astronauts can collect the casket with Josh in it. Design suggestion for Josh: when you depressurize a compartment, you send the air back inside the plane. Just a thought. The operation works, Columbia lands, and Josh is back on the ground. The sequence with the astronauts free-floating in space to get the casket over the shuttle is worth the effort to watch the movie. It's so amazingly done, I can't find the words to describe it. There is not a single second of it that isn't convincing.
Give me the plane back. Rotate it.
Let's take a moment to explain to this keyboard jockey what rotate means, because that ain't it. Josh is coming up with just as much down here as he did up there. Meanwhile, calculations suggest that Starflight will begin re-entry about 4 hours after their oxygen runs out. Suffocate from lack of oxygen, or head back into the atmosphere and go out in a blaze of glory. Decisions, decisions.
Elliot! Elliot!
What is it?
What does that look like to you?
What?
That!
I don't know, a tunnel?
The universal docking device?
Could be. Could work.
The basic idea? Connect that between the plane and Columbia and evacuate the people to the shuttle. Once everyone is off the plane, it's just a matter of bringing it down someplace where it won't bother anybody when it crashes. By the way, did you know that in 1983, Edwards Air Force Base not only had one of the few runways in the world long enough to accommodate the shuttle, it also had a full launch facility so they could turn around, refuel, and send Columbia up again in record time. Did you know that? Yeah, neither did they. During the space shuttle era, they did have refueling and servicing facilities, but to be launched again, the shuttle had to piggyback on a plane back to Canaveral in Florida. Maybe they built a launch pad at Edwards just for this movie, who knows? There are 57 people on board. Columbia can take 20 at a time, so this will require 3 trips. They'll draw straws to see who goes which trip. The crew will be last, naturally.
Dell, there, the blue plate specials you ordered.
Thanks.
Okay, everybody. Now, you're going to be kind of pulling yourselves across on a white nylon rope inside the chute. I'll go first. Just follow me. Don't be afraid. You'll be fine.
This tube is long and flexible, and it looks kind of thin-skinned to me. Someone asked what happens if a piece of space debris penetrates it. If that's a possibility, I see a design flaw. It's going smoothly. The first group of 5 has made it, and the next group is in the tunnel. This bunch includes Freddie, the guy who really caused all this. That design flaw I mentioned, make it out of tougher stuff. What the heck was that? And what in that tube was so flammable? Fire needs 3 things. An ignition source, which it got from that arcing spot, oxygen, which the tube should be full of, and fuel, which, except for the tube itself, I frankly don't see. The way the fire flashed like that, it looked like somebody pumped a bunch of propane into the tube. In fact, that's probably how the effect was done, but it doesn't make it believable. And who thinks a 100-yard-long dryer vent hose is the best way to do something like this? The docking devices that spacecraft use to link up aren't anything like that. The space between the crafts is deliberately kept short as possible because things like this could happen if they do it this way. This was the first point where I couldn't suspend my disbelief. This idea was just dumb, and 5 people just paid for the dumbness.
You got 5 of them down. You can bring the rest home.
I just killed 5 people.
You didn't kill them. You tried to save them.
What's better, killing them 5 at a time or all at once?
They have 12 hours of oxygen left. You are the only chance they've got.
Don't you understand? I would need a bus to bring them all back.
Then get them a bus.
As they say, behind every great man is a woman who knew the answer all along, whether she knew it or not.
Culver Air has a booster tank for their Mayflower rocket, which, if my figuring is accurate, will fit almost exactly inside Columbia's cargo hold.
Put down that phone. Put it down.
Oh, brother, what crawled up his bald butt?
Now you listen to me, all 3 of you. That gantry out there, that orbiter processing facility, the one that Columbia's using now, that represents $93 million I've got to eat. Because we lost the space shuttle contract to Culver. And I know how they did it. Industrial espionage.
So they're supposed to throw away a chance to rescue those people because he has a personal grudge. Stuff something in his mouth and get on with it.
Those Culver cutthroats shafted me for $1 billion. That was the size of the contract we lost, Mr. Gilliam. And now you expect me to go crawling back to Culver and have him reap the praise and the rewards for rescuing my HST project?
Here's something you may not grasp. This isn't about you.
Are you telling me that all those people up there have to die? Just so that Bart Culver doesn't get credit for their rescue? What the hell kind of...
Wait 1 minute, Josh, and you just watch the...
All right. Both of you, get out of here. Josh, count on that booster tank.
Okay, that's as effective as stuffing something in his mouth and probably less smelly. I have to agree with Josh. He's willing to sacrifice 50 people who have nothing to do with any of his crap for the sake of his pride. He should be charged with involuntary manslaughter for the loss of those 5 people. Josh told him not to launch it.
Cody, there's just one catch.
Say it, Josh.
Tank can only hold 38 people maximum. Some are gonna have to stay behind. We can only use it once, Cody. I'm sorry.
I suppose it's just as well that Freddy was in that tube because you know he'd never volunteer to stay.
Columbia has liftoff after a record turnaround of 2 hours.
It takes longer than that just to assemble the whole thing, much less refuel it and check the heat tiles. And that's not to mention getting it to the launch pad, which is done with a giant tractor called the crawler. It's called that because its maximum speed is 1 mile an hour. How many miles is it from the runway to the launch pad? But maybe they already had the external tank and SRBs put together after they fished it all out of the ocean, and all they had to do was slap the shuttle onto it. Let's go with that. And this time, use something sturdier than a bendy straw. Actually, the astronauts bring the tank over and dock it to the plane so everyone is aboard safely. The 6-member crew and the 3 volunteers will stay behind. Felix, the newsman, is one of them, and Cody is basically telling Joe that he volunteered. The astronauts are bringing them a spacesuit and some gear so he can go outside and fix that electrical problem. Joe knows what that means.
You're gonna try and fly this thing back.
Joe, did you ever skip a flat rock across a lake and watch it skim and bounce along on the surface? I want to give re-entry that kind of shot.
Cody, I have skipped a few rocks on a few lakes in my time, and I never saw one yet that didn't sink. It's 1 chance in a million.
So was this accident.
Cody, I am scared out of my mind being up here inside this plane. And you want me to go outside?
Yeah, that pretty well sums it up. That's what you get for knowing how to fix it.
Oh, no. I'll need a wire stripper and some wire nuts and a dry pair of pants when I get back.
I think it can all be arranged, and anybody else would make the same request. Ain't nobody gonna look down their nose at you for that, my man. Hold their nose, maybe.
I've got your other volunteer.
Benny, you've got no responsibility to...
No, wait. Felix and I see this thing the same way. Now, if we happen to get out of here alive, we have got ourselves one hell of a story. Photographed exclusively by the one and only Benny Collins.
Those pictures better be good.
Make sure you get my good side. Erica led the human chain into the tank, which surprised me. I would have thought she would be the other volunteer. Instead, she professed her love, demanded that he come back alive, and then left. That proves that Lee Majors is expendable, but Lauren Hutton isn't. The next several minutes are taken up with the people crowding into the tank and the astronauts making sure the docking device stays put this time. While Columbia takes 38 people to the ground, Joe is fixing the plane.
I've got Joe outside repairing the rocket cables. So if you can crank up those toys of yours and give me the best shot at re-entry.
Look, without a heat shield, there's no angle that'll work. It just can't be done.
You got any better idea?
I'll get one.
Houston here.
We've just got an update on your time of re-entry, Cody.
Starflight will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere in 73 minutes.
That means both Josh and Joe need to hurry. Joe can't believe he only has an hour to sort all this out, and Josh can't come up with a scenario for re-entry that doesn't involve 9 roasted humans.
What I really need is a pulling guard running interference for it. Put up Columbia.
The sizes and shapes of the two vehicles are similar enough that if Columbia positioned itself right below Starflight upon re-entry, only the tips of Starflight's wings would overheat. It could work.
Hello, Houston? Yeah, listen. You got Columbia touching down here in about,
47 minutes.
47 minutes. Think she can make another jump with minimum processing?
What for? So she can watch the burn-up?
Can she do it?
It's not quick enough. By the time she got back up, there wouldn't be anything left of Starflight.
Or not. They said 2 hours was record time, Josh. You're asking them to do it in 30 minutes. They can't even get the astronauts off for a quick pee in that amount of time.
Got anything else hanging around? Anything up there already?
Hold on, we're checking.
Come on, come on!
XU-5 is up doing repairs on a military satellite. Can you clarify?
And what, pray tell, is XU-5? Before we find out, Bodish has more good news.
Recheck your projected oxygen, Bodish. We got big problems.
Yes, we know, Captain. We had an upside and a downside on our projections.
But our readings are accurate. We can't make it to re-entry.
Not with 9 of you using the remaining oxygen, no. Look, if there were maybe 5 or 6 of you.
Look, don't ever stand where I could see you, Bodish. Because if you do, I'll tear you in half, so help me God.
I'll hold him for you. You can't fault the acting in this film. Both Bodish and Thornwell are so perfectly played you want to rip their noses off. That's not surprising. Both George DiCenzo and Ray Milland were world-class performers. And then, of course, you have Lee Majors and Hal Linden, as well as Lauren Hutton and several others. The casting and acting is nigh perfect.
Now, if we mean anything to anyone down there, somebody will get that damn guy out of the control area, because I don't want to hear his voice again.
Joe remembers there's a little oxygen in the spacesuit, so they vent that into the cockpit and get everyone in there. The rest of the plane is closed off. Where is this XU-5?
Starflight, you're in final orbit before re-entry.
The XU-5 is on its way to rendezvous with you. It'll be your heat shield on re-entry.
The XU-5 is another shuttle. And how many of those are there, and why haven't we been using them? The whole thing is appropriately tense and suspenseful, and there's really no filler in it. We watch the process of setting up for re-entry, XU-5 taking up position under the plane, and the beginnings of re-entry. I hope I don't have to mention that it works. Everybody told him Cody was the man for this job. Nobody could have imagined what the job would turn out to be, but Cody was the right choice.
Let's go.
I have a feeling that is a man who is contemplating the folly of a life lived solely for personal gain and glory. Or else he just thought about how much money he's lost on this project. You never can tell with rich old bald guys. There were a couple of little twists here. For one thing, Joe got back inside safely, where in most such films he'd be lost in some way. For another, Janet stayed around until she knew Cody was safe, then went home and basically let Erica have him. In your average film, Cody would have realized that Janet was the one and gone back to her. But it doesn't always work out that way. We see that clearly in Cody's reunion with Erica. His lucky hat. If that doesn't seal the deal, I don't know what will. I called this Dumb Movies I Like Anyway, and I do like this movie. The special effects in particular make it worth the time. But then we ruined it with a stereotypical Deus Ex Machina. The whole time they were abusing Columbia, there was another one up there that could have helped out. What the frick? It tells me that somebody couldn't figure out how to resolve this with the tools they had at hand. That tells me this movie was made too soon before someone came up with a more reasonable answer. I'm guessing time pressures forced them to pull something out of their posterior nether regions and get the script submitted. I'm also guessing most of the budget went to special effects and casting. I can't really complain about that. Both were outstanding. But 2 more weeks to finish the script in a more believable way would have been a good investment. I hope you enjoyed this. 10,000 subscribers. I can't thank you all enough for being faithful viewers and for spreading the word. I say it a lot and it's true. I have the best audience on the internet. I am so blessed to have all of you on this journey with me, and there are no words to express my gratitude. Remember to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out my Patreon. The link is below. I'm Irving, this is Hazel, and we thank you for watching. Right? Go crap. That relations is come on. Isn't doing for that Steph with her or Steph and the flight attendants. They don't have the floor. So no more of the rest of so get your good out space. Good grief, out into space, David. Boom off so more. Good grief! Suction from a... Good God, David. Well done. Good grief! So, losing the air... It's the Starfight, which is John with it. John, tense and suspenseful, or else he screwed up that line. We ruined it. Yeah. Just to express my gratitude. Remember to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out my Patreon. The link is below. I'm Irving, that was Hazel, and we thank you for watching.